The golden woods of Lothlórien stretched high above the Fellowship, their leaves shimmering in the soft, golden light. Time felt different here, slower, quieter, untouched by the war beyond its borders. The elves moved among the trees like whispers, their presence barely noticeable. Frodo sat apart from the others, the weight of the ring pressing heavier with each passing day. He could feel it, how it whispered to him, how it pulled at his thoughts. Even here, in the most beautiful place he had ever seen, he was never truly free of it. He glanced up as Galadriel approached. She moved with an ethereal grace, her silver-white gown flowing behind her like water. Her gaze, deep and knowing, met his, and without a word, she beckoned him to follow. He obeyed, drawn to her presence. They walked through the golden forest until they reached a small clearing where a silver basin stood on a pedestal. The water within it was perfectly still, reflecting the moonlight like a mirror. "This is the mirror of Galadriel," she said. "It will show you things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass." Frodo hesitated. He had seen enough darkness on this journey. Did he really want to see what awaited him? Galadriel tilted her head, watching him. "Even if it is a future you do not wish to see." His fingers brushed against the ring at his chest. Slowly, he stepped forward and peered into the water. The surface rippled. Images swam before him, the Shire, peaceful and untouched. Then flames. Smoke. A dark force swallowing everything in its path. Hobbits in chains, their faces gaunt with suffering. The green dragon burned to the ground. A towering black figure, its armor gleaming like obsidian, stepping through the ruins. Frodo gasped. The image shifted. A great eye, wreathed in flame, turned toward him, searching. The ring burned against his chest. His breath came fast and shallow as the eye seemed to see him. A deep, terrible voice echoed in his mind. "I see you." Frodo tore himself away from the water, stumbling back, panting. He looked at Galadriel in horror. "This will happen?" he asked. "The Shire, my home, will be destroyed?" She watched him with unreadable eyes. "If you fail." Frodo swallowed, his entire body trembling. The weight of the ring had never felt heavier. I have to stop it." Galadriel studied him for a long moment, then turned her gaze to the mirror. The water rippled once more, and a new image appeared. Herself. Not as she was, but as something else. She was bathed in light and power, her very presence overwhelming, divine, terrible. "In place of a dark lord, you would have a queen," she whispered, her voice both beautiful and terrifying. "Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn, stronger than the foundations of the earth." Frodo felt it, the pull of the ring, calling to her, offering itself. For a moment, it seemed she might take it. Her hand twitched at her side. Then, as suddenly as it came, the vision faded. The glow around her dimmed. Her expression softened, sorrow touching her features. "I have passed the test," she murmured. "I shall remain Galadriel." Frodo exhaled a shaky breath. She turned back to him. "The choice is yours, Frodo Baggins. But know this, only you can make it." The following morning, the Fellowship prepared to depart. The elves gifted them boats to continue their journey down the great river. Galadriel gave each of them a parting gift. To Frodo, she gave a small crystal phial filled with shimmering liquid. "May it be a light for you in dark places, when all other lights go out." To Sam, she gave a small box of elven soil. To Aragorn, a sheath for his sword, and a green stone that once belonged to his beloved Arwen. To Gimli, she offered nothing at first, until the dwarf, flustered but determined, made an unusual request. "If it pleases the lady," he said, "I would ask only for a strand of your hair." The elves around them gasped, but Galadriel smiled warmly. "You shall have 3, she said, plucking them herself and placing them in a small silver case. Tears welled in Gimli's eyes as he accepted them. I shall treasure these always. With their gifts secured, the fellowship boarded their boats and pushed off, the golden woods slowly disappearing behind them. The journey down the river was quiet, but the silence was heavy. Frodo could feel it, the shift in the air. Something was coming, and he wasn't the only one who sensed it. Boromir sat at the back of one of the boats, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. The further they traveled, the louder the ring's whisper became. It spoke to him, promising strength, victory, the salvation of his people. You could save Gondor. Your father would be proud. Take it. Take it. His breathing grew uneven. He gritted his teeth and tore his gaze away from Frodo. Not yet, but soon. By dusk, they reached the shores of Amon Hen, the ruins of an ancient watchtower. Aragorn suggested they stop for the night before making their final decision, to head toward Mordor or go to Gondor. But Frodo already knew. He could not stay with the others. As the others set up camp, Frodo slipped away into the woods, his mind racing. He had to leave. He had to go alone. And then, a voice behind him. Frodo. He turned. Boromir. The man smiled, but there was something in his eyes, something wrong. You are afraid, Boromir said, stepping forward. I see it. You think you must bear this burden alone, but you do not have to. Let me help you. Frodo's heart pounded. Boromir took another step. Why should we not use it? The ring is a gift. A weapon to defeat Sauron. Why do you keep it from us? Frodo shook his head. No, Boromir, it would only destroy you. Boromir lunged. Frodo turned and ran, his breath coming fast and shallow. Boromir chased him, his voice desperate. Give it to me. Frodo tripped, falling to the ground. Boromir loomed over him, eyes wild. For Gondor. Frodo slipped on the ring, and the world vanished. He was no longer in the forest, but in a vast black void. A fire burned in the distance, and at its center, the Eye of Sauron. I see you. Frodo gasped, ripping the ring from his finger. Boromir was gone. He staggered to his feet, heart hammering. He had his answer. He could not stay. He ran. At the river, he found a boat and pushed off, alone at last. But not completely alone. From the trees, Sam appeared, breathless, tears in his eyes. Mr. Frodo. Go back, Sam, Frodo called. But Sam, faithful, stubborn Sam, jumped into the water, though he could not swim. Frodo's eyes widened. Sam. He pulled him into the boat, and Sam clung to him, gasping. I made a promise, Mr. Frodo. A promise. Frodo broke down, pulling him into a fierce hug. Together, they paddled toward Mordor. Behind them, the fellowship was broken, and war was coming.